Hello and welcome to Booked and Buzzy. I'm Annie Mazes with Hachette Book Group, and we really appreciate you taking the time to join us today. I'm joined by my colleague Chris Vicari and also by VL Bovalino and Carla Vass, who are going to talk about their books. Very exciting. First, we're going to hear from VL Bovalino. VL is originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and now lives in the UK. She loves obscure academic facts, folklore, and oversized sweaters. And The Thief and the Traitor Bride comes out in September. Thank you so much, VL, for being here today.
Thank you for having me. And thanks everybody for joining us, which on what I assume is like your lunch break, but delighted to be here. It is unfortunately far too warm today for sweaters, but aesthetically, I hope we are all imagining that together. But yeah, so I'm here today to talk a little bit more about my book, The Thief and the Traitor Bride. And first of all, I just want to say how great it is to be with librarians. I think y'all are wonderful. And I actually used to work at a library when I was in undergrad. And the library I worked at was a fine arts library, but it was next to like the Carnegie Library of Pittsburgh. So I would go on my lunch break and get like so many books out and then read them. And then it was like a closed stack system and it was terrifying at the library that I worked for. And so I based my first ever horror novel on that experience. So yeah, I love y'all and you all are wonderful. But yes, so a little bit more about Traitor Bride. So it is a book about, unsurprisingly, a thief who is sent to find a magical object from a mythical island. And unfortunately, the person that the thief has to work with is his estranged wife, who is the main character. And so the main character, her name is Nora Gordon, and she is a wine trader and a spy. So they're doing some missions to kind of find different information and get artifacts, and it's a second chance romance as well. And I had a great time working on it. Something that I really, really loved about Traitor Bride, so it's a follow-up to my first adult fantasy novel, which is called The Second Death of Locke, which came out last year. So within Traitor Bride, we are going to see some familiar faces again, if any of you have read that book. So we're going back to the same setting, and it was a really fun one to revisit for me. Something more kind of like academically nerdy about it is within Locke, there's epigraphs before every chapter, essentially. And so that carries through within Traitor Bride. And I hesitate to say I'm still an academic, but I was at one point. And so something that I really wanted to explore was like the story of those epigraphs through like primary sources. So that was something that was really fun to integrate when I was doing it, in that some of the like Locke epigraphs come back again in Traitor Bride, and some of the characters from the Locke epigraphs actually come back again, as well as like people within the book itself. So that was a really fun experience. And I just thoroughly enjoyed like working on this book. And I really wanted to emphasize like the importance of archival research and libraries, especially like as it pertains and relates to folklore and folklore criticism. And so that was something that I was really focused on while working on it. So it was just different layers of lore coming together in a way that I found really, really fun and exciting. And I assume that many of us are, book nerds as well. So I really hope that if you pick up the book, you enjoy that as well. And Annie, that's pretty much all I have to say about it.
That is great. Thank you so much for being here, VL. We're really excited about your book and we look forward to reading it. And it is available as an e-galley if anyone would like to request a copy. Thank you, VL.
Of course.
Thank you, VL. And as always, thank you, Annie. I am Chris Vicari of Union Square and Company, here asking you to start your engines and get ready for The Rally by Carla Vass. It stars a young tech entrepreneur named Charlotte, also known as Charlie. She's the co-founder of a successful dating app who walks into a boardroom expecting a routine meeting, but instead discovers she's being pushed out of her own company. The offer on the table is simple and delivered with a cool smile. Take the money, sign away your future, and go quietly. and you have 2 weeks to decide. So she does what a lot of us might like to do in that situation. She books a flight to Europe to join her best friend for a glamorous car rally, an extravagant trip where fancy people drive classic cars and party through life in one gorgeous location after the next. But soon she realizes she must reckon with the fallout from her departure and an unexpected attraction that complicates everything. In this world of the ultra wealthy, Carla has seen it before, having worked at Goldman Sachs, Uber, and Waymo, among other places. She has also participated in a real European car rally. She joins us today from beautiful Miami, Florida. Please say hello to Carla Vass.
Wow, Chris, thank you so much. I feel like you should be a presenter or something. You might have missed your calling, but thank you so much. I'm so happy to get a chance to introduce myself. Carla, author of The Rally. I probably don't have the most traditional author background, but I am a lifelong lover of books, was always writing and making up stories. I grew up in New York City, and my earliest memories are of going to the library with my mom and her telling me that all libraries had a 5 book limit because she knew she'd be the one stuck reading to me for hours every night. And that limit, by the way, magically disappeared once I learned how to read myself. I've almost forgiven her for this treachery, but later I studied English literature in college. And then when I was 21, I did what all English majors do and went to work at Goldman Sachs. It was around this time I also attended my first classic car rally, which it's basically a very glamorous road trip, and I just thought it would make an incredible setting for a novel. So that's actually when I started writing very early, very, very early versions of the book. So I began my career in finance. I then spent the next decade plus building businesses, primarily in tech. So I was an early Uber employee. I helped build the Uber Eats business. Then I went to Waymo to work on driverless cars before founding my own startup. And when I ultimately decided to close the company, I really found myself reflecting on, almost 15 years spent in just sort of intense, high pressure environments. And that's really when, what became the rally just kind of poured out of me. So the book is fiction. It's very fun. I describe it as, White Lotus on wheels. Um, Chris Bojalian, who's one of my favorite writers, called it a scrumptious novel you'll devour like Belgian chocolate, French bread, and Italian wine, which I will be putting on my tombstone. And I actually just found out this morning that Jennifer Weiner, who's just such a hero of mine, liked the book, and she summed it up better than I think I ever could. So I'm just going to read you what she said. She said, when your partner tries to steal the company you founded, what's a girl to do? Head off to Europe for fast cars and faster living, a delicious escape, and maybe a happy ending. So that's basically the rally. It's about a young entrepreneur walks into a boardroom expecting a routine meeting and instead discovers she's being forced out of the company she built. So she impulsively flees to Europe for a glamorous classic car rally. And she thinks she's escaping, but what she really finds is reinvention, romance, and a little bit of revenge as well. And readers can, absolutely stay on the surface and just kind of enjoy, the yachts and beautiful people and very questionable life choices. But underneath, it's really a story about what happens when something you've built and devoted years of your life to suddenly tries to erase you. And, as I said, a lot of my experience did kind of make its way into the book. I think being fired or pushed aside or sort of just quietly betrayed at work is unfortunately such a universal experience, especially right now. And, that's one reason the story seems to be resonating with professional and ambitious women in particular. So I really hope you enjoy the rally. I think books are best shared and enjoyed together, and I love to yap. So I want to engage with readers however possible. I do already have book clubs around the country signing up for virtual visits. So if there are any clubs in your communities you think might be a fit, I'd love to join them. They just go to my website to schedule. It's just my first and last name. I'm based in Miami, but I do spend a lot of time in New York and Houston as well. So would love to come say hello in person and support however I can. And, I just want to thank you. Librarians were really like my babysitters, my teachers, some of my earliest champions. And I grew up in a time when you couldn't just Google everything. Like you actually had to ask a librarian where to find information or what to read next. So, just want to say I think the work you do really matters, and it really mattered a lot to someone like me and made a deep impression on me. So, I just want to thank you again.
Thank you very much, Carla. Thank you for telling us a little bit about yourself. We are going to now move into the book buzz portion of our Booked and Buzzy presentation. I'm going to talk a couple minutes about some Union Square titles. On the next slide, just a couple titles that have just come out or are just coming out. The Age Rebellion by Lindsay Simpson stresses how we must adapt to what growing older means in today's world. Hachette by Laura Piper Lee is the USA Today best-selling spicy stoner romance that you've been looking for. Vervain Hollow by Katrina Silvey is horror with a starred review from Library Journal. And Peter Granger's UK detective series has arrived in the United States of America, including the brand new Some Sort of Justice, of which Publishers Weekly in a starred review said, quote, "This is everything a procedural should be." On the next slide quickly, The Rally by Carla Vass. You just heard from her. We hope you buckle in for it this September. Next slide, please. Meet Cute Magic by Morgan Elizabeth. In the town of Heartwood Hollow, bookstore owner Rosie wants a love of her own, but it's not meant to be because of her family's curse. To break that curse, she conjures a ghost who will do that, but for a cost. She has to brew a potion to help him transition to the other side. Next is Winterset Hollow, a dark fantasy novel by Jonathan Edward Durham, being called Winnie the Pooh meets the movie Midsommar, about three friends who discover their favorite children's novel is real and the talking animals are out for revenge, with the truth behind their beloved story more dangerous than they ever imagined. And now for something completely different, a few in nonfiction. We have One by Alex Spiro. He's one of the nation's top trial lawyers. His notable client list has included Jay-Z, Alec Baldwin, and Elon Musk, among others. He is an unwavering believer in free speech and speaks to audiences on matters relating to it and the First Amendment, which is at the core of his book. He will share his own initiation into its importance, noting cases from his career, plus look back at its history and the many times it has been tested over the last 2 centuries, while urging readers to consider its importance apart from politics while doing it. Next slide, please, and ending on tasty notes. We have Make It Fast, the second book by Caroline Chambers, her follow-up to the smash hit What to Cook When You Don't Feel Like Cooking. Weeks on the New York Times bestseller list. Here are new delicious recipes made in just 30 minutes. Next is Oversharing. Courtney LaCourte, known online at Cheese Gal, is based in Nashville, Tennessee, and got her start crafting over-the-top cheese boards for country music's biggest stars. Now, in her debut cookbook, Courtney shows how she makes every meal feel special. Take my word for it, friends. For her recipes, her fans don't walk, they run. For comforting recipes organized into playful chapters for every meal and moment. That is what people want today, and this is the cookbook that you'll be texting your best friend about this fall. And lastly, Cuban Soul by Mika Leone explores Cuba's rich culinary history, bringing all the flavors of Cuba's most beloved dishes, borrowed and blended from many Caribbean influences, into your own kitchen, including, of course, the sandwich actually called the Cuban. My friends, those are the books, and that's the way it is today, June 4th, 2026. Here again to tell you about some more great books is Annie Mazes.
Thank you, Christopher. I'm Annie Mazes. I'm back. We're so appreciative of you being here. And this was not planned, but it's like a really nice segue from Chris's delicious cookbooks to a romance reader's cookbook. This is inspired by beloved novels, characters, plots, and tropes. 60 recipes that are very playful, easy to make, and swooningly delicious. Summer fling spaghetti with burst tomatoes, hot as hell pineapple salsa, risk it all for love spicy souffle. The recipes are inspired by iconic books, including Pride and Prejudice, Twilight, and 50 Shades of Grey, best-selling authors like Nora Roberts, Beverly Jenkins, Emily Henry. And more obscure titles like Ice Planet Barbarians and sleeper hits of the genre like Dial A for Aunties and Virgin River. Rochelle Billow is a voracious romance reader, but also a classically trained chef, editor at Serious Eats, and the author of 2 romance novels, so the perfect person to write this. Next, we have Yoruba mythology. This is sacred to the religion and culture of the Yoruba people of West Africa and millions in the diaspora of Brazil, Cuba, and beyond. This is to date the most comprehensive published collection of more than 300 myths of this ancient, profound, and beautiful storytelling tradition. And the authors are uniquely qualified to impart these stories, having spent decades learning, collecting, and studying them. Next is American Hagwon. Exciting publishing news. Minjin Lee, the author of the best-selling and beloved Pachinko, is back with her first novel since then. Once comfortably middle class in Korea, John and Helen Ko and their 3 children find their lives upended, first by a shocking betrayal by John's oldest friend, and then by the 1997 Asian financial crisis. Desperately striving to regain their footing, they leave Seoul for Sydney and eventually settle in Southern California, where opportunities open up for the children. At the same time, their parents must adjust to a new life in which their experience and education means little. American Hagwon's plot involves business, education, religion, globalization, immigration, lots of very relevant touch points for book club discussion, all written with Minjin Lee's beautiful abilities. Next is A Glacier's Guide to Dying, which I am so excited about because I absolutely loved Michelle Porter's debut novel, which was a library reads pick, A Grandmother Begins the Story. I cannot recommend that book enough. I am so excited for this one. Robbie has spent most of his life wondering about his real father, who left due to his struggles with visions and mistrust of the modern world. Now, Robbie is determined to find him. On the slopes of a huge glacier named Omega, Robbie navigates between fear and wonder as he starts hearing the ancient voice of the glacier give him guidance. Has Robbie assessed a deep connection to the land, or is he succumbing to the same illness that wreaked havoc on his father's life? Michelle Porter brings her moving sensibility and disarmingly funny voice to a very powerful story of identity and belonging, loss and healing within families and with the land itself. She is the only person who has ever written from the point of view of a buffalo and made it just like the most charming and wonderful. And I love that there's the voice of the glacier in this too. Her writing is just so good. And last is a new series for fans of Dungeon Crawler Carl. The Gentle Apocalypse series comes out between August and December of this year. So if you have patrons who can't get enough of Dungeon Crawler Carl, this is a very fun read-alike series. It was a successful self-published series, and it features the delightfully put-upon Galornis Prime, the biggest, baddest demon overlord for over 400 years. But now he wants to retire and tend to his farm and befriend his neighbors in the adorable hamlet of Lower Middleton. Unfortunately, lots of nefarious characters don't care that he's now only interested in growing pickles. For anyone who's ever wondered what Schitt's Creek would be like with an ageless demon lord of the 7 sins, this fantasy series is a definite page-turner. It's warm and funny and has themes of community care and empathy that make it surprisingly heartwarming. And that is it for me. If you have any questions about anything you've heard about today, please Gentle Apocalypse, delightful combo, Anna. You're totally right. But please reach out to me or Chris, and we will be sending around the recording of this so you can have it and share it. And we really appreciate you spending your lunch break with us, maybe if it's your lunch break. Period of time in your day. Thank you so much.